Believe we are good to go. All right, let's do this. All right, today's date, November 7th, 2018, and this is how the frack we got here. I'm your host, the most, Will Buchanan, and kind of a lot to go through. As we always do in how the frack we got here, we try to take what's happened during the week and what happened during the week before, and we try to make the best out of the situation and try to make it to where it makes sense. Basically, before I go into this, do have to always give the surgeon. I guess we can't call it the Surgeon General's warning, but let's just go ahead and call it the viewer discretion warning so everybody understands. So this is an adult podcast, but adult content, which means adult nature, which means adult language will be used. Viewer discretion advised. So if you don't actually like truth, and if you don't like harsh language, please take the next 3 seconds to make the necessary adjustments. Has it been three? Okay, so it's been 3. So guys, forgive me, I'm kind of editing shit as I'm going along, trying to at least. So basically, how can we start with? Well, we can only start with the only area that actually makes sense. We can only start with the area basically, if you've been under a rock or you've been hiding or for lack of better words, you were just basically not paying attention to your television or newspaper or just anything social media related, you would have saw that the election for the midterms has came and gone. Now, there are some races still going. Reason being because this has probably been a very good turnout of voters, and by that I mean, for the simple fact of the matter is, a lot of you people came out. And that's great. That's wonderful. That's how it's supposed to be. Because I know there was a lot of naysayers. There, it happens. There are a lot of naysayers. There truly is. So when you have a lot of naysayers, and you will have them, and that's fine. I'm used to that because I started off in saying, simply put, that it's you no longer have a reason not to vote. Because as you can see, when you're not voting, everything is affected by it. I mean, down to your job, down to your taxes, everything is affected by it. So to say that not to vote would actually be a travesty. Now, do not get me wrong. I've always said it best. It is your right to an American to vote. If you don't want to vote, I'm not going to pull your arm. But I will say that not voting has given us more of a negative situation than it would if someone actually did vote. Because if you voted, and if you're like me yesterday, you're people like Tennessee. Lord, Tennessee. Okay, how can I explain Tennessee in so many fucking ways? We're always gonna. I refuse to accept that Tennessee is a red state. Now, I don't mean to go on this short little rant. I refuse to believe that Tennessee is a red state. I refuse to believe that it will always remain a red state. I refuse to believe that it can change. But for some odd reason, Tennessee voters out there love to shoot themselves in the foot and reload. Now, Bill Lee, who is now our governor-elect, which he'll be sworn in next year, is a businessman. I call him Mitt Romney Light. Mitt Romney Light, basically because all he knows how to do is run a business. He's never served in office. He's never He's never served in any political office of any kind. He was basically just a businessman who, like many of us, have decided to do, put ourselves on the docket and run. And he has money, and he was backed by the Republican Party, so of course he ran. So, I don't like somebody who doesn't have experience at that level to where he'll make business decisions. That bothers me a little bit. Because, Phil Bredesen, which I voted for, and I'm not saying he's not the best choice, but he's been a mayor. I'm sorry, not Phil Bredesen. Carl Dean, I apologize. Carl Dean has been the mayor of Nashville for several years. He's been around the political block. It only makes sense that he's done such a great job with Nashville. And in many cases, I know the argument can be made that a lot of what he has done didn't really help Nashville. It actually drove in Nashville. But if you think about it from an economy and income rate, he did actually help Nashville become better. But compared to Bill Lee, in my opinion, he would have been the much better choice. Almost in the same sense if you look at Marsha Blackburn. And for anybody who voted for Marsha Blackburn, I'm going to be honest, fuck you. And also to Marsha Blackburn, if you ever see his podcast, fuck you. Very much because Marsha Blackburn is a Trump mouthpiece. She is literally the epitome of a politician who basically gets paid for doing nothing. She has voted for her own pay raises several times. She has actually skipped out on the ACA healthcare debates. She didn't vote on them. The only time she actually ever voted was her pay raises, and also whenever her endorsements from Big Pharma about opiate control, about also voting against marijuana being in not controlled substances, were the only times that she actually showed up and actually stuck to her guns. Her guns being whatever the people that paid her told her to say. Only to have, President Trump, which he came to the state twice. He came here. He actually was in Chattanooga not too long ago here in Tennessee. He also was in Nashville, Tennessee for Marsha Blackburn as well. And the thing about this whole situation is just that individuals believe, and this is why I say the one thing about Tennessee being a red state, individuals who vote conservatively, historically, have always voted against their own interest. I mean, you can argue with me all you want to, but this is me just being a progressive, and I'm a moderate progressive, which means that I look at the situation as far as a little bit of traditional value, but I always look forward to far as what other ideas can be done, not just sticking to the same old shit. So conservatives are stuck in the 1950s. I'm just going to be honest. You're stuck in the 1950s. You believe that women should be subservient. You believe that religion and morality should take over common sense. And this isn't me just speculating. This is actually your values. You say family values make it a better city. No, it does not. Values and moral fiber do not make a better city. They only make better citizens. Better cities means that those who are not bound by religion are going to hopefully make the better decisions to where individuals can come in and actually guide people. And that's where Nashville is lacking. That's where Tennessee is lacking, because you always see these people, and I'm going to be honest, I believe that Tennessee does not like progressive thinking. I don't think they like progressive people. I don't think they like it when folks come in and say, well, we need better education. We need better schools. We need all of these things. And they're all progressive ideas. And for some odd reason, it's almost like putting a Satanist inside of a Catholic church. You expect them to roast on fire. When really the whole thing about it is, it's just that for some odd reason, a lot of Tennessee voters can't embrace progressive ideas. But they'll always go back to the old favorite. They'll go back to the person who screams God, guns, and country, and somehow get the vote. But that's neither here nor there, because like I said, if you voted, then you did your part, in my opinion. If you didn't, I said this on my Facebook post earlier. If you voted for Blackburn and you voted for Bill Lee, then don't complain about what happens next year. You reap what you sow. So let me go ahead and get off that soapbox for a minute. Derek, yeah, you did tell me about this state. Vaughn, I followed you. I followed you and ran on a little bit about that. But anyway, let's go back to the rest of the story. Because like I said, going back to the election, which did take a lot of what we saw last night, the big thing was voter suppression. Now, for all those that don't know what voter suppression is, it was basically a shit ton of that going around for this vote. Again, the large turnout, mainly because of women, because a lot of women votes did turn out, and we thank you guys for that. And not to say that guys won't do the same thing, but like I said, the large turnout, mainly more for women, and they came and showed out. Congratulations, bravo. That's what I talk about. Because when I sit there and say your vote matters, if a large surge of women voters could come out and change the seats in the House and the Senate, then of course that's how much your vote matters. That is the epitome of your vote matters. Now, here's the problem, because like I said, there's one vote particularly in Georgia right now between Stacey Abrams and Brian Kemp. Brian Kemp, if you'll remember from earlier months, tried to suppress votes in Georgia, throwing out exactly around 320 votes because he says that there were inconsistencies. Now, I always thought it's funny that the Secretary of a State can throw out votes that can positively go against him in the election that he's in within the same year. I thought it was fishy, but here's the other thing about this. There's another story I wanted to bring up about where they actually did speak more about this voter suppression, which was going on in Georgia, and exactly what they're trying to do about it right now.
With reports of mechanical glitches and human errors leading to long lines and frustrated voters in precincts all around the country. Look at this line in Gwinnett County, Georgia today, Greater Atlanta. The batteries inside a polling machine there had died. It took nearly 2 hours to find a power cord to charge up that machine. So for want of a single power cord, all these people gave up all this time today just trying to vote. Wow. Storms overnight caused power outages in Knoxville, Tennessee. At one polling location, voters literally had to cast paper ballots by lantern light, which doesn't make for great TV, but is a great story. Chandler, Arizona, though, just outside of Phoenix, wins for the weirdest voting problem of the day. This morning, when poll workers showed up just before 6 a.m. local time to open up, they discovered that the landlord had foreclosed overnight on the office where people were supposed to be voting. Foreclosing on the office, locking the poll workers out, locking voters out, and locking the voting machines inside where no one could get to them. It's been that kind of a day. Tremaine Lee is at a polling place now in Atlanta, Georgia. Tremaine, thanks very much for joining us. What have you been seeing today?
Hey, Rachel, thank you very much. Here in Atlanta, Georgia, where voters may be poised to make history by possibly electing the first black female governor in the United States. But this race has been controversial from the very beginning. Concerns about voter suppression efforts, especially coming down from Brian Kemp, the Secretary of State, who was also running for governor. But also, not the least of which is the gutting of the Voting Rights Act. You talk to folks around here who have been around the block a few times, and they say they saw this coming a mile away. But today, even though there's excitement and long lines everywhere you go, there's also concerns about voter suppression efforts and things going wrong at the polls. I want to bring in Derek Johnson, the head of the NAACP. Derek, what have we been seeing out there? There's been some concern across counties and across Atlanta that these voter suppression efforts are actually working. It's funny business at the polls.
Yeah, well, we're preparing a lawsuit right now to extend the voting time for precincts in Gwinnett County with the Alerts Committee because we had voters standing in line for over 4 hours because they didn't have power cords. We're finding the same stories in Fulton County, and we're standing outside the Morehouse precinct where students have been turned away because of the exact match. It's unfortunate that Brian Kemp did not step down as Secretary of State to ensure we had a fair election.
How much of this do you think is just mismanagement of the polls, and how much of this might be nefarious?
Well, whether it's malicious intent or benign neglect, it's something that should not take place for this election cycle. We should have a transparent and fair system. He should have stepped down. In fact, I wish we could bring criminal charges against how he's treating our democracy during this election cycle.
Is there concern that any of this, the swirl of controversy, what we're seeing in the polls, will impact voter behavior or has impacted voter behavior at all today?
Well, I am excited with the level of enthusiasm and determination of voters to stay in line. I'm encouraging voters to stay in line, whether you're in Georgia, whether you're in Florida or Maryland or any other states, because no matter what, don't leave the polling place unless you cast a ballot, whether it's provisional ballot or an actual ballot.
Inside this auditorium in Morehouse College, there are still over 100 people still waiting in line. So students all day, the line stretched down the block a little bit. I talked to a volunteer, you see behind me, there are a whole bunch of poll watchers said that at every hour of every the moment today, the line stretched to 150 people or more. There's still young people in there ready to vote. There's excitement, but also a lot of concern.
Tremaine Lee for us in Morehouse. At Morehouse, really appreciate you being there for us.
Okay. So basically, what you just saw right there, and I mean, there's more to it as far as cutting short, but for the simple fact of the matter, that's just one, and that was just, I mean, not only just Atlanta, Georgia, but Knoxville, Tennessee, and several other areas where things like this were happening, and you can't help but go, what the fuck? You guys, for an election committee. And this is why we, as much as we keep talking about voter suppression, this is exactly what happens. Is just that when they know large amounts of people, large crowds of people are coming, and they know these people can make a difference in unseating individuals from Democrat to Republican and vice versa. Mostly from Republican to Democrat, especially in the state where Brian Kemp, because Brian Kemp, Literally, like I said, he was the Secretary of State in Georgia. He actually got 320,000 votes. 320,000 voter registrations he threw out. So that's 320,000 possible votes that may or may not have that could have went against him. And for anybody that's actually paying attention to that race right now, because Stacey Abrams, who his opponent is still has not conceded because they're still counting absentee and provisional votes. So, and last time I checked, he was only ahead by about 50,000 votes. So again, you have 320,000 votes still sitting out there, that possible votes sitting out there that could have been accepted. But again, a person who was literally in his own race threw them out. How does that not sound anywhere remotely fishy? Because it smells to high heaven of that. But like I said, that's just one. I mean, for anybody that's paying attention, if you're paying attention to Native Americans, there was a story about Native Americans in which they were trying to vote. And of course, I did actually find a scene on that, so let me actually play this, guys, for you too.
The Indian wars have not ended. They only changed forms.
I think we should just go through the hallways and see if there's people here that we can catch right now. Yeah, come. Okay, do you have a new ID printed already? Okay, so we continue to do that because we just want to make sure everybody votes on November 6th. We don't care who you vote for, we want to make sure you vote. This law predominantly affects Native Americans. We were kind of hurt that we were not at the table.
It's hard for us to prove discriminatory intent, but we can definitely prove discriminatory impact.
You know, they say, why do you have PO boxes? I said, well, because a lot of our streets are not signed. We have really poor signage on our reservations. Those housing numbers are just not common either.
We didn't need physical addresses when the boarding school agents and the police came looking for us to snatch our grandkids and take them to the boarding schools. We didn't need physical addresses when they drafted us to fight their wars. Now all of a sudden we need physical addresses to exercise one of our most basic fundamental rights in a representative democracy.
You have an ID with your address on it? No? All this stuff so that you can vote on November 6th. You need to ride to the polls. You can call that number 854-VOTE. You know, Native Americans can very well swing an election here in North Dakota.
They got a little scared, they passed some laws, but you know what happens in Indian country? When they throw obstacles in our way in achieving our sovereign rights, then we get organized. All right. I'm just filling out my tribal ID form to renew my card so I could vote. Kind of scary, but I'm doing it. Well, I got my ID today, and I hope it passes for me to vote. We know that, based on state law, that people can vote absentee, that they can vote early using an absentee ballot. So we brought a busload of people today to vote. We went down to the Sioux County to do the absentee ballot, and it was really awesome. I thought it would be hard, but it wasn't. Like I said, come on, Sally, why don't you want to get out and vote?
They're encroaching upon our rights, and they're able to make it look like it's white people against Indians. But soon enough, they're going to be coming for everybody's rights. All of our constitutional rights, our treaty rights, our natural rights, our birth rights.
I think if America knew that we had to go through all this to vote, I think everybody would feel equally upset.
we're aware that all across the world people stood with Standing Rock. We're getting emails and phone calls from all over the world and all over the country about how people can help to ensure that Standing Rock Sioux Tribe and all the tribes in North Dakota are able to cast their vote. And it makes my heart very full to see that.
And that's actually another thing, too. And that's also the other thing I wanted to bring up as well, because that's the reason why voter suppression is such a big thing. I mean, you seen it. I mean, you saw it in Atlanta as far as 320,000 voter registrations being termed. You see it in North Dakota where Secretary of State, they slick passed the law. When I say they slickly passed the law, I mean that law about all IDs have to show in a residential address. That was recent. That wasn't something that was on the books. They knew off the bat that Native Americans, with no question, should have the right to vote just as much as anybody else. And there are so many of them that they knew that most Native Americans are, I'm not going to say that I know they're going to vote Democrat or Republican or Independent, but the fact of the matter is that they should have been just allowed to vote. Is where voter suppression. This is why we're talking about so much about voter suppression, because it's an ongoing thing right now. And this is just the midterms. Imagine when 2 years later, when if Baby Huey hasn't been impeached by then or fired by then, we more than likely could be trying to seek a second term. Wait, say, Vaughn, did they legalize the? Wait a minute. You got to retype that out, Vaughn. I don't know that question. I don't know what you're trying to ask, man. But the thing about this is where it's when you look at voter suppression as itself, this is why it is so vital that we always try to stop it in its tracks. Because if we don't, this is what happens. They will find ways around how to, as far as how. They'll pretty much try to, like I was telling somebody else, if your vote really didn't matter that much, people in Georgia, people in North Dakota would not be going through the hell it is, because Native Americans shouldn't require residential address. They're on their own native soil. So again, it's one of those to where it shouldn't even be a question, because it should be allowed. But because they know that votes matter, and I keep stressing this. I've had many people argue, debate with me on the fact of whether or not votes matter. But I've always said it best: if voter suppression exists, then votes do matter, because there wouldn't be that group of people out there who are trying to find every way around to keep people from voting. It wouldn't be there if your vote did not count, if your vote really did not matter as much. That tells you alone how much, as a large group of individuals, as a large group of American voters, that your vote actually counts. It really does. And, that surely should be the end of the argument. Marijuana, I thought that was on one of the ballots. Yep, I do have the story on that one. Getting to that, Vaughn. So yeah, that's actually one of my happy segments, because we're still trudging through all the shit, but there are some happy segments that I know they brought a smile to my face, and I hope they bring a smile to you guys too. But we're gonna get to that very shortly. But the other thing about this, what we discovered yesterday was actually there was some good things, and like I said, as there were a large turnout of voters, and if you voted, great. If you didn't vote, I would encourage you to. I would encourage you to the next time you do, because if your candidate doesn't get in, that's fine. But never shirk the opportunity to vote, because in my opinion, if you're able to vote, then there's another individual out there who's fighting their ass off trying to do the same thing that you can do easily. Not guilt shaming, not any of that nature. I'm just saying, if it's available to you, what's the harm in doing it? Or looking into the candidates, do your own research, and then going from there. Not just hearing and seeing what you're on the news. But like I said, if you haven't voted, it is my hope that you would vote on the next one, which will be the presidential terms in 2 years. Would be the presidential election in 2 years. But like I said, with the large women that have, with the large number of large women, with the large number of women voters that actually did come out, we also had some women that were actually elected. Actually, a record number of women, which it seems you would think a lot of people would recognize. I myself thought it was cool. So to actually give an idea of, to give an idea of all the women that have been elected so far, let me just show this real quick video so you may or may not be aware of them. Okay, and also this one as well.
Mexico, you are sending one of the very first Native American women to Congress.
That's early 2004 music.
We believe diversity and representation make us great.
Women to wear a hijab to represent us in Congress.
We prove that we're an inclusive state that values every contribution, regardless of someone's sexual orientation or gender identity.
And that's actually what's so great. Because I know I showed two videos back to back. The reason why I want to show those videos is because not only has there been a large wave of women, of female politicians that are coming into office. There's actually more diverse. You do, like I said, you showed one. Two women of Muslim descent are actually going to be in Congress. Our first Somalian of descent individual, who's also a woman, is also going to be in Congress. We have two LGBT politicians who will be starting Congress next year. All of this, in my opinion, is great because, like I said, there have been missing voices. There have been missing voices in Congress, and I'm glad that it's now showing that those voices can now be heard. Now, I know for a lot of you guys are going to be sitting there going, well, you didn't really see a lot of, again, it goes back to the point of honestly running. I mean, we did have Andrew Gilliam, which I still say the man got screwed out of Florida. But then again, Florida has screwed us before, so we shouldn't really be surprised about that. And Andrew Gilliam also could have been a great governor. He did concede to DeSantis in Florida. There is a story about that right now to where the votes could be recounted if there is a 0.5 difference as far as voting countings of that nature. Really hasn't been circulated yet. That's the reason why I didn't want to report it. But there is a chance that that could be recounted. Same thing as in the Georgia race with Stacey Abrams and Brian Kemp. That also could be going down to a recount as well. But I wanted to bring those things up, and BJ, you really didn't miss much. I'm just basically just going over the election as far as things of that nature right now. So you really didn't miss anything at all. But those people that I just showed shows that that there is a chance that we can be progressive in Congress. It shows that there is a chance that we can move forward in Congress. We only have to find the means to do so. And I mean, it is truly that. I mean, it is that possible. But like I said, we're gonna get to the good stuff. I do need to go over other things because I'm gonna go over the good stuff first, and then we'll get to the rest of that. But not only the simple fact of the matter was that we had individuals, fresh faces, different voices now coming to Congress. There was actually a few other cool things that actually happened. Florida actually did the one thing that I wish every state would do. So let me actually play that because I think it's pretty cool.
There's about 1.5 million people with felonies or prior felonies who have completed their sentences, and they would be restored to the voting rolls. However, if you were convicted of murder or a felony sexual offense, you would not be eligible.
And it's brought left and right together. The coke industries and black preachers and everybody coming together. I think both parties have values that are offended when there's no redemption.
Just politically, when you think about this, 13 million people are eligible to vote in Florida. You add 1.5 million to the rolls, that would be rather interesting heading into the presidential election in 2020.
Now, that is actually cool. Simply put, it's cool that Florida, I mean, you need to get rid of that stay your ground law. I'll tell you that out the bat. But the simple fact of the matter is that you have now actually given a path for felons to be voters again, and that's something I never understood. I mean, if you're a felon, yes, there are some things maybe you shouldn't be allowed access to based on your crime. But I truly believe that voting shouldn't be one of them. Now, I do love the fact that Florida took Amendment 4, which basically, like it was stated, person who's committed a felony or felons who, as long as they've completed their parole, as long as they completed their probation, as long as they're not convicted of a heinous crime, can actually have their voting rights restored. So I know alone in Florida, like they said, an estimated 1.5 million, and I don't know about you, but 1.5 million voters can make or break somebody trying to get ahead in life as far as being elected to Congress. The same thing can be said in Tennessee. I mean, I don't have an exact picture of how many felons are in Tennessee, but I do know that felons want to vote. Just like there was that one story of a woman, I can't remember her name, that they posted 6 months ago, where she sat there and voted and didn't know that, because she was a former felon, she voted, it was accepted, and then she, went back to jail because voter fraud. And I thought to myself, that's unfair. I mean, it's unfair as long as she didn't do anything of a heinous crime. Heinous crime being murder, rape, or mutilation of a person. Those are considered heinous crimes. And the thing about it is, if she served her time and her parole and her probation, then of course she should be allowed to vote. It's just that fucking simple. And Florida has actually taken the step to where everybody has voted on this and said, great, we want this to happen. Okay, cool. And that to me was actually a bright spot out of yesterday. To me, it was a bright spot out of yesterday, because the simple fact of the matter is they will, if you look at voter suppression, again, this is voter suppression. If you're a felon, you can't vote. And Florida started to turn that around because the simple fact of the matter is, if they're a felon and they haven't killed anybody or did anything of that nature, they still should be allowed to vote regardless. We still allow them to get jobs and whatnot. You have to mark down on a job application of what you did. No different than voting. They should be allowed to do the same. You are right, BJ. Florida does. Well, Florida, New Mexico, and there was another state that has the worst gun laws in America. But I know Tennessee's like a bottom top 5 at that. But aside from that, like I said, there's other, like I said, about good news, because there's actually other good news as well. Mostly my hometown in Nashville, where we actually had an amendment, and basically, if you don't know what it is, Amendment 1 basically guarantees us oversight of police, and this is what happened. Hopefully it plays.
Right here in Nashville, a list of amendments were on the ballot along with the big races tonight, none more controversial than the Community Oversight Board for Metro Police. Nashville voted and will now get to select part of the Oversight Board. The amendment passed, and here are the numbers: 58% for, 42% against. The push for the amendment ramped up in the last year and a half following the deadly shootings of Jacques Clemens and Daniel Hambrick. One officer was cleared, the other charged a few months ago. Community Now was behind the push. Here's part of their statement. It says, "We are grateful to Nashville voters and allies who believe that accountability and transparency are core principles essential for participatory governance." The Fraternal Order of Police says the legality of the referendum is still an open question, stating in part, quote, "While the Amendment 1 referendum has apparently garnered a majority of votes, the legality of the referendum is still an open question. But for now, the voters will focus on picking part of the board. In all, it will be made up of 11 members. 7 will be chosen by community organizers. Metro Council will select the rest."
Now, there are 5 other amendments attached to the ballot, all but one passed. A line of succession for mayor, mayor special election, mayor, vice mayor, and council upholding the charter, and replacing masculine pronouns. All of those passed. Only Amendment 5 was rejected, and that had to do with...
Okay, so pretty much in that sense, like I said, Amendment 1, which was here in Nashville, was basically over the fact of having a civilian oversight board for police. And if you can imagine, our police did not like that because, but if you got a badge, you got a gun, you've been told to protect and serve the natural public, that you really don't want to have a boss to report to, like a civilian. So, of course, the most recent police shootings that we've had here was the sole reason why this actually occurred. And this is actually a great step because, like I said, the police need to be held accountable to, and they shouldn't have to be worried about being held accountable to other police, because anybody who's actually experienced this knows that if police are monitored by police, then let's just be honest, nothing really gets done. But we do hope that having a different voice, having a civilian oversight board to which the police had to respond to, and should actually curb a lot of the bad cops, because like I said, if you're a good cop and you have to answer to a civilian board and you've done nothing wrong, which is the same thing they tell us when they pull us over, then you should have no problem with it. The fact that the Order of Police and the Fraternal Order of Police and others out there that support the police are saying this is a bad idea should tell you a lot about the simple fact of the matter is they just want to operate without overhead. And that alone should tell you exactly why it's so hard and why there's such a dissension in the rank between civilians and police, mostly minorities in police, because police know they don't have to answer to anybody. Now they do. And again, this is actually far from being actually cemented as of yet, because like the news article said, it just gets to the point of actually appointing the committee, what their abilities will be, and things of that nature, and also getting the Fraternal Board of Police and the police chief to go along with it, which, as far as keeping up with the story, they ain't happy. But, they serve us. They're not out there to serve themselves. I mean, we don't give you a squad car. We don't give you a squad car, handcuffs, gun, taser, and mace just to sit there and play cop all day because you want to. You're there to protect and serve the community, so therefore you should have no problem doing this because, like I said, it comes down to the simple point of the matter is you want us to trust you, but it's a little hard to when you're using us for target practice. Just saying. But, again, that's still great. Some other good news, because like I said, we have a shitload of good news before I get to the bad stuff. So, the other good news is, because I know, Vaughn, you were asking about marijuana. Unfortunately, it didn't make the ballot here in Nashville. However, aside from Colorado, Vermont, Michigan, I'd say y'all made it. We hope it plays.
In the Midwest, the 10th in the country, but the first in the Midwest to legalize recreational marijuana. We join the likes of Colorado and Washington. Voters passing Proposal 1, 56% of the vote. So does that mean that all of a sudden marijuana is legal today? Not so fast. Let's get to Nick Monticelli, who's going to explain when we can expect marijuana to be legal in Michigan. Nick?
Devin, good morning to you. You know, we've been telling people all morning, don't fire up your brownies or your joints yet, because marijuana isn't legal in the state just yet, even though Prop 1 has passed. A lot of things have to change. A lot of changes in the legislature need to be made. The other questions are going to be, what happens to medical marijuana dispensaries like this one? One of the interesting things is, because of the new regulations that are already in effect, because of new licensing policies, they may be one of the first areas that can get you recreational marijuana here in the state of Michigan.
I'm excited that it happened. I know that we've been talking about it in Michigan for the last couple of years.
The majority of the overnight crowd we found this morning is happy that Prop 1 passed, most for the same reasons.
People are going to do it regardless anyway of if it's legal or not, so why not, put a tax on it and make some money for the state of Michigan that's going to be able to go back and benefit our state.
Michigan is now one of 9 other states, plus D.C. and Canada, with legal pot, but many this morning are asking, when exactly will it be legal? The short answer, we don't know yet. It could be months. For instance, Colorado voters approved recreational marijuana in November of 2012. But the amendment to change the law didn't go into effect until December of 2012, and didn't officially become legal to sell it until 2014. That's not the only legislative change needed, though. Again, in Colorado, the state legislature had to create laws for marijuana use, driving and traveling, specific youth laws, laws for home growing, and more. Also, remember, the proposition that was passed allows municipalities to have their own laws on pot. So each city can decide whether or not to allow the sale of recreational marijuana within its borders. So that's going to be one of the key things. We'll be looking to see which cities are going to allow dispensaries for recreational use in their cities. Also, one of the big hurdles are going to be for law enforcement, determining the best way to determine if you were legally impaired under the influence of marijuana. This is one of those things that a lot of people have opinions on one way or the other, and they're not afraid to voice it. For that, we'll go to Jason Carr, the Carport, with some social media reaction. Jason?
To say the least, Nick, on our Facebook page, we asked our viewers what they think is next for recreational Mary Jane here in our state of Michigan, and boy, did we get the replies, just like last night, live streaming on Facebook and Click On. Kay says, what is next? Hopefully an avalanche of incoming tax money as happened in Colorado. Michael, what happens next? Car insurance and workers' comp will increase 10%. To that, Kyle adds, what's next? Please, so many people have been acting like this has been passed for years. They know what's next. Light them up if you got them. And finally, in the carport stand says, money to fix them potholes. What do you think? Join the conversation. In between the cut-ins last night, Devin, we had a conversation going, comments in the thousands on Facebook and Click On, and every other comment was about this issue. Prop 1. Over to you.
There is a lot to manage.
So alone that okay, so shout out to Detroit, because I'm almost certain, like, damn it, volume beat me to it. Everybody they talked to was high. I'm almost certain the guy at the teleprompter was high. But again, this is progression. This is progression. It's for Detroit. It's been joining Colorado. Like I said, Detroit is turning Colorado. Detroit is joining Vermont. And like I said, 9 other cities, including Canada, because Canada's it's recreational up there now. Truth be told, there's no downside to this. I don't partake. I don't partake in marijuana. However, I do support those that do. I also do support that the cannabis plant does have has hundreds upon hundreds of medical engineering and social applications that could help out in every area of the world. I mean, you could help out soldiers with post-traumatic stress disorder, because a lot of them says weed is helping them cope with that and anxiety. You also have those that suffer from seizures and whatnot, which cannabis oil has been a lot more effective than opiates. You have had marijuana has actually been used as a pain reliever for those with arthritis and joints and cataracts, versus giving them psychotic drugs that want to make them addictive and whatnot. At the same time, it is a cash crop. Denver has a surplus that is almost it is now almost up to 1/10 of what the national debt is. Like, it's like, I'll put it this way, it is literally Colorado's surplus is so big that they have to get the loan money away to other states. That alone should tell you that marijuana is a cash crop in itself. And the only way you can make something, and I never believe that marijuana is a drug. It's not. It's a plant. Something that is a plant is not a drug. So therefore, with that being said, Detroit's about to go from a city that's financially struggling in a few years to just like Denver, to just like Vermont, to just like all those other areas that have already legalized marijuana, because that is the progressive wave. You know, the war on drugs was really bullshit because it was all about marijuana. And the thing about it is though, it grows. You can't stop a plant from growing, and you can't stop those from using a plant that have found a better way to live life. Then just go ahead and allow them to do it. It just makes that more sense to go ahead and do it, accept it for what it is. And you're right, Vaughn. Paper, clothes, rope. I mean, there are hundreds upon hundreds of applications from that plant that could be used. But again, it's just one of those things that to where you have to get to a point to where we have to start being progressive. I mean, marijuana was never the problem. Opiates are. And as you can see lately, opiates themselves are becoming a danger because, well, they can kill you. They are addictive. And at the same time, they're being sold just because they're being overprescribed or being pushed through pill meds or pain medication centers because people have to find a way to cope with the pain. And instead of giving them something that's actually more harmless than helpful, you give them something more harmful than less helpful, because let's be honest, nobody's ever OD'd over marijuana. Plenty of people have OD'd over oxycodone and Oxycontin. But again, we can only hope that other states will follow this. Oh, no problem, Bon. I know you're about to start your show, dude. So good luck and kill that shit. So also, I got one more bit of good news before we get over to the bad shit. So for all those that remember Kim Davis, you know, the one individual in the Kentucky County clerk who swore up and down that it's against her religion to refuse to dispense same-sex marriages. You might get a kick out of this story. So let's just play it here.
Actually, the United States Supreme Court has authority to review. No, it is not. Kim Davis. Love has won. Love has won. Love has won. I just want to give God the glory. You are strong people.
I don't know about you, that's karma. I mean, truth be told about that entire situation with Kim Davis, like I said, complete karma. She cited her religion as far as not to be able to give same-sex marriages out, and it was a whole fiasco. Huckabee hitched himself to her wagon, and there was all these rallies and whatnot, and folks come and defend her, and then after all said and done, you lost your job to an LGBT person. I'm sorry. If that is not justice, I don't know what is, because that's just karma biting you in the ass, lady. So okay, so pretty much, I got the good stuff out the way, because the next couple of ones before we wrap this up is going to be a little rough. So just bear with me. So again, we're going going back to the election tonight. So, of course, election's all said and done. Like I said, unless you've been under a rock, you do understand the Democrats now have control of the House. Control of the House of Republicans. Now, what does that mean? That means that the House of Republicans. Well, it was a House of Republicans, but the House of Representatives actually has legislative responsibilities, which means that all bills, as far as bills become laws and things of that nature, and Trump's agenda has to go through there first before it can go through the Senate, which unfortunately the Republicans still control. So, what does that mean? In so many ways, it almost means a deadlock, which means that through the laws of checks and balances, if it doesn't make it through the House, technically it doesn't make it through the Senate. Now, of course, like I said, with checks and balances, the House can stop a bill from going through in the first shot. However, if it is brought through a second time, it has to go through the Senate. The Senate has to approve it. But guess what? After the Senate approves it, it goes right back to the House. So again, it's a deadlock, because there's no way to really override it unless the Senate approves it, and then by the time it has to go back to the House to reapprove it. So again, it's almost like, it's like having the corner in tic-tac-toe, and you know they can't do shit unless you move. So it's kind of a defensive measure. Not to say there's nothing wrong with that. But the Democrats have already, and I was saying this, pretty much to myself. Like I said, I did a short podcast with this last night, where I sat there and said, if the Democrats do get control, which I was hoping for control of the House and the Senate, which means that if that was going to happen, then at this point it is all but academic that subpoenas and impeachment trials are going to start coming Trump's way. It still can come, because with the ability of the House of Representatives, Democrats can issue subpoenas. But the interesting thing was, because I said Maxine Waters, if she becomes head of the Ways and Means community, which means that she has the ability to request anybody's tax returns, I wonder who she's going to go after first.
Senior Democratic source on the Ways and Means Committee, who says tonight, breaking news, they do intend to request President Trump's tax returns. That's important because, as you know, as we reported, this is something that does not require the Senate, it does not require even a full House vote. Under federal law, the chair of the Ways and Means Committee has the power to request anyone's tax returns. They believe that includes flatly the President of the United States. So this is coming to us now. We're seeing the ramifications of Democrats on these committees who have this kind of power. This is Rep. Richard Neal. This is the ranking member of the Ways and Means Committee, who would become chair if our projection holds that they are basically Democrats taking over the House. Getting your hands on those Trump tax returns, as everyone knows, would be a big deal for the committee. It doesn't mean they would automatically become public, but it does mean that Democrats are coming out swinging tonight. They're not waiting. They're putting this marker down right now, and I'm reporting this for the first time on MSNBC. They intend to request the returns, and this senior source tells me this is something that Pelosi is in on.
So, pretty much in so many words, Maxine Waters is just waiting until January, because that's when the new Congress, basically new Congress gets sworn in on January. That's when Maxine Waters will become the committee of the Ways and Means Committee. And yes, as you just heard, she can actually request Agent Orange's tax returns. Now, I know a lot of us have heard, Agent Orange, well, my tax is under an audit, and just like an audit, I can't release them. They're still being audited, so you guys just have to wait. Let me tell you something, baby Huey. From personal experience, I've been under audit by the IRS, and it is not fun. Matter of fact, if there's anything about the IRS that needs to change, it's the way they handle audits. Because from not to go into a short rant, nobody wants to call the damn 800 number for the IRS, jump through the goddamn IVR system, get put on hold for 15-20 minutes, just have another person ask them the same questions the goddamn IVR machine asked them, only be put on hold again just because they have to find the individual who's looking over your taxes in a basement somewhere, who's pretty much going to sit there and tell you to wait because they're backed up. So again, I know how it feels to be under an audit. And let me tell you something. being under an audit fucking sucks. But because basically Agent Orange has the head of the IRS on speed dial, you think it would be very easy for him to sit there and go, why don't you just release my taxes to the people? The reason why he doesn't want to do it is fairly obvious. And it's getting to the point now to where it can't be avoided anymore. There is smoke. All that smoke that is surrounding him, as if Snoop Dogg had just joined him, there's a fire somewhere. And chances are, if you follow the fire trail, it leads back to Agent Orange. Because I've talked about this all the time. It is amazing to me how in one story, Trump's tax returns were brought up, and it was saying that he could have possibly allegedly kept $500 million away from the U.S. government. He didn't report properly. So he could be up to $500 million of money that he didn't report to the IRS. And I remember that story broke out. I thought this was great. I thought this was huge. I thought people were going to go with it. The next day, silence. So I feel like, wait a minute, we're not going to let that go. I mean, granted, there's a lot of shit we can let go. We're not about to let that shit go. The simple fact of the matter, this man is president, and yet he might actually be in a money scam. I mean, this is how they got Capone. This is how most modern gangsters went down. They didn't go down for murder. They went down for tax evasion. I mean, if we get him by tax evasion, cool. We still get the sumbitch. But again, we shouldn't have to. I mean, and quite frankly, we shouldn't have to wait until Congresswoman Waters actually does it, because I know for a simple fact she'll do it. But for the simple fact of the matter is just that you would think for a man who has nothing to hide should just go ahead and sit there and say, just here you go. You know, because he hounded President Obama about his birth certificate. Hounded. Even sat there and said, if he can actually produce the birth certificate, then I will pay such money. And you know, same thing he told I can't think of her name right now. I went so brain dead. He told Congresswoman Elizabeth of the consumer watchdogs, sat there and told her to prove that she has Native American in her family. She did. Still waiting for that payoff. But then again, he's a con man, so you really shouldn't be surprised by that. When you say BJ, yeah, Carmen got that ass real quick. You ain't lying. Baby Huey fired, and that's on my. Yeah, I'm about to get into that. I'm about to actually. That's my next story, BJ. Thank you for that. But yeah, so pretty much in so many ways, we can tell at this point, Trump is not happy about what's about to happen to him. I mean, he went from having the best 2 years of his presidency about to be taken away from him, because now he's actually Elizabeth Warren. Thank you, BJ. But Elizabeth Warren was the one he called out. Thank you, BJ. But now Trump's about to have the next 2 years of his presidency, of his first term, are about to be very challenging, because now he has a Congress that's not going to roll over for him. But speaking of that, because, you know, in Trump's world, everything is The Apprentice, let's actually get to Jeff Sessions. And I know BJ did say that about him being fired. And yeah, he was actually fired today. And, well, this is kind of how it went. Well, actually, hang on, guys. That's Give Him a Life story. Basically, what I wanted to go over was this part right here. Because when President Trump did ask him, it was a whole thing about him going to, and I love this part right here. At your request, I am submitting my resignation. So it's like, of all things you can hear, at your request, I am submitting my resignation. That alone should tell you off the bat that it wasn't his choice. Now, the reason for that, and I apologize for the video, it wasn't the right video, so I apologize for that. But the reason for that is basically because Sessions was the reason why Robert Mueller was actually investigating the Russia probe. So, at one time, Trump wanted Sessions to fire Mueller. And Sessions wouldn't do that because of the closeness of him being appointed by Trump, and because it would look like Trump is guilty. Sessions recused himself. So, because he recused himself, he put himself completely out of the investigation, allowing Mueller to only report to Rod Rothstein, the Assistant Attorney General, during the investigation. So, why does this matter? This matters because next year, you're going to have a whole bunch of Democrats who now have to go up the campaign promise of actually holding President Agent Orange accountable. And to do so, that means that now Mueller, which we all thought that, okay, if Trump does fire Mueller, which let me explain that. Trump can't fire Mueller. All Trump can do is ask the Attorney General to fire Mueller because he's a special investigator. Unfortunately, and Trump in any way or form is not being investigated. And if you're like me, you have to correct a lot of people about that. He's not being investigated because the probe is to see whether or not Russia interfered with the election and if there was collusion. If there was collusion, he is to follow that. He's followed that trail. If the trail leads to Trump, then so be it. We know he's a part of it, but he's not the initial investigation. But like I said, if it leads to him, then of course he's going after him. But this is the reason why Trump is acting somewhat scared, is just because of the fact of the matter is, like I said, personally, I think Mueller's done. I think Mueller has actually finished his investigation. I think he's ready to let loose. Personally, that's just me. Now, I could be completely wrong about that, but again, it's possible. Also, at the same time, it's the whole thing of how much information has Mueller found, because nobody knows. Only him and his team does. And I think that scares Baby Huey a little bit because, like I said, there's way too much smoke. I mean, you already know he's been compromised by Russia just because he won't blame Putin for shit. You know he's compromised by Saudi Arabia because of Jamal Khashoggi's death, and the simple fact of the matter is that he did not hold the Saudi family responsible for an American citizen being killed on foreign consular soil. Again, it amazes me so how much this man talks about the Democrats and everything else being compromised, and he's the most compromised guy there is. But again, with Sessions being fired, that means that Matthew Whitaker, his former right hand, is actually going to take over. Matthew Whitaker was more favorable to Trump because he sat there and said in a previous interview that the only way to stop the Mueller investigation is to basically defund it to where it runs out of steam or just runs out of money to keep processing. And again, for a guy who said that previous time and is now the interim attorney general, kind of tells you everything you want to know as far as what they're trying to do to derail this, in the same sense that voter suppression is trying to outdo voters. But the last thing we're going to talk about, which it's very interesting, like I said, all this happened in a matter of 24 to 48 hours, which is wild. So the last thing we're going to talk about is basically Agent Orange and two things that he did at his most recent press conference after the midterm elections, and it would be difficult for me to explain it, so I'm just going to play it.
Itself, having you working for them, you are a rude, terrible person.
They're hundreds of miles away. They're hundreds and hundreds of miles away. That's not an invasion.
Honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN. Right. And if you did it well, you're ready.
Let me ask you, if I may ask another question, Mr. President, if I may ask you another question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough. That's enough.
The other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr. President,
that's enough.
Mr. President, one of the questions I may ask on the Russian investigation, are you concerned that you may have...
I'm not concerned about anything with the Russian investigation because it's a hoax. That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation? Mr. President.
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN. Go ahead.
I think that's unfair.
You're a very rude person. The way you treat Sarah Huckabee is horrible. And the way you treat other people are horrible. You shouldn't treat people that way. Go ahead. Go ahead, Peter. Go ahead.
In Jim's defense, I've traveled with him and watched him. He's a diligent reporter who busts.
Well, I'm not a big fan of yours either, so
I understand.
To be honest.
So let me ask you a question, if I can. You repeatedly said
you are the best,
Mr. President. You repeatedly over the course of
just sit down, please. Well, when you report fake news, when you report fake news, which CNN does a lot, you are the enemy of the people. Go ahead, Mr.
Now, that alone says so much again, which is probably being played on every news outlet right now, was basically Jim Acosta trying to ask some questions. Jim Acosta, one of the head journalists of CNN, was trying to ask questions about the Russia investigation, and that, do you believe the Democrats would go forward as far as allowing that, and would you, change your opinion on Mueller, things of that nature. And of course, as you saw, Trump basically decided to treat him like a little kid. So it amazes me so that the journalist is just doing their job. I mean, that's journalism. Journalism is asking the questions that are going to make politicians uncomfortable. That's what's supposed to happen. And, as a politician, you're supposed to have the composition to handle that and breeze right on through. Because, it's kind of funny. He made fun of Hillary Clinton during out his entire campaign rally. And Hillary Clinton has sat in front of committees for 11 to 15 hours, and she didn't break a sweat. He sits in front of a press conference for less than 20 minutes, and he turns to a toddler. There's a big problem about that. No, I don't think it's ever going to happen, BJ. I mean, Secret Service is going to stop that because, here's what Trump only does this because, like I said, Trump believes he is fascinated, romanticized with the dictator role, but he also wants people to love him. But at the same time, he doesn't like it when people present things that his handlers don't. Like Jim Acosta's whole thing was, you keep villainizing the caravan. It's not a caravan, which he talks about the immigrants that are coming here from South America and other areas, and they're coming to request asylum at the U.S.-Mexico border, and Trump took it upon himself to call this caravan that's invading, and they're bringing murderers and rapists. And I know I sound like his 2016 speech. I already know that because that's his voter base. His voter base is fear-mongering and loathing, and that's what they usually do. He uses that to scare people into saying, this caravan's coming, and it's got thousands of refugees, thousands of the worst people, and they're going to cross our borders, and they're going to do all this. I mean, he makes it sound like The Walk. He makes it sound like there's an army of zombies headed our way, and unless we do something, we're all going to die. He makes it sound like this doom and gloom, which is kind of funny that after all said and done, and he's got control of the Senate, amazing how the migration caravan, as they call it, hasn't been mentioned in the news since. So it's almost like Ebola. They made such a big ass deal about Ebola, not realizing that Ebola was contained, and all of a sudden, poof, never heard from again. So again, that's where Jim Acosta was pretty much setting it straight. It's like, it's not a caravan. These aren't terrorists. It's not an invasion. These are people fleeing from war-torn countries for fear of their lives is what they are doing. And you're making it sound like they're just horrible, horrible people. And that's what Trump doesn't want to hear. Because in Trump's mind, they're enemies. And he wants other people to be their enemies. And the only people that have that type of mindset are dictators like Hitler. Because Hitler wanted every Nazi to believe that they're a superior race, and that Jews were unclean, and that they all need to be extinguished. Is not Trump doing the same shit? I mean, it might be a different spiel, but same shit. And that's not the only thing he's done during this press conference. Oh no, it would be unlike Trump not to have more than one scene. He actually had another one with another journalist. And I thought this one particularly was, well, let me play it.
On the campaign trail, you called yourself a nationalist. Some people saw that as emboldening white nationalists. Now people are also saying that the president.
Such a racist.
There are some people that say that now the Republican Party is seen as supporting white nationalists because of your rhetoric. What do you make of that?
I don't believe it. I don't know. Why do I have my highest poll numbers ever with African Americans? Why do I have among the highest poll numbers with African Americans? I mean, why do I have my highest poll numbers? That's such a racist question. Honestly, I mean, I know you have it written down and you're going to tell me. Let me tell you, it's a racist question.
And Mr. President,
you know what the word is? I love our country. I do. You have nationalists, you have globalists. I also love the world. And I don't mind helping the world, but we have to straighten out our country first. We have a lot of problems. Excuse me. But to say that, what you said, is so insulting to me. It's a very terrible thing that you said.
Well, let me get April's reaction to that. Go ahead, April. Yeah, I was in the room, and I was taken aback to hear him say that was a racist statement or a racist question. This president said that he's a nationalist. Define what a nationalist means. When he said he was a nationalist, there were people in the black community that were up in arms about it. When you say the word nationalist, they feel that you have to put white next to it, and that's the white supremacist groups and white supremacy. And Yamiche asked a real question because there is a concern about saying he's a nationalist. He is a white man who is a nationalist, and there are people who are concerned that that is code for white nationalists. What the president has to do now at this moment is to explain what his white nationalism, what his nationalism means, as there is a linkage of white nationalists, but he's a nationalist. It's confusing, but there is a concern about it, and Yamiche is now. She has a residue of hate. He called her statement or question racist, and he was insulted. It was not meant to be insulting. It was meant to get clarity on what he was saying. That's all.
And that's the point. And that's pretty much the point about that. That in itself should say a lot about where they're coming from on that. And the truth of it all is just that, okay, so basically, to sum this up, Trump does not have a leg to stand on when it comes to saying anything racist. I mean, we've had multiple situations to where his true allegiances lie. I mean, you could take the Charlottesville, South Carolina, to where, you could take the South Carolina rally where that individual ran over several different people, and he had his moment to denounce white supremacy groups and nationalists. He didn't. He just said that some of them are good people. The moment he said that, I knew exactly where his allegiances lie. But the simple fact of the matter is, this is his playbook. When his playbook is to call something out as false and keep harping at it as false, where he's like, he's a nationalist. I'm like, I would feel like I would throw the dictionary at him, but he knows what he means. He knows what nationalist means. He knows the historical meaning of it. He also knows the current meaning of it. He also knows that it is attached to white supremacist group. And he also knows all this, but he says it anyway. Why does he say it? Because he knows at his position that other people who have the ability to remove him from said position won't. They will allow him to say everything that he wants to say, and he will just keep on going because he knows he can. And that's wrong. But it's also more wrong for him to go to a journalist who's simply asking him the question of, are you pretty much siding with white supremacist groups? And he goes, no, a nationalist is a person that loves their country. Nationalist and globalist. I said, yes, globalist, you are correct. But nationalism has taken that definition and is associated with white supremacist groups. And he knows that because that's his fan base. He knows that. For the simple fact of the matter is that's his fan base, and he knows that. But the boldness of it all. That's why I said I congratulate that journalist for being professional throughout. Because Lord knows if that had been me, and you try to say that's racist, I would stop him and say, sir, you're Caucasian. You don't get to say what's racist and what's not racist. I mean, that's like you being the Pilgrims going to the Native Americans when they show you how to crop and grow food in an area where you can't do it yourselves, and you get to tell them they don't know how to do it. Motherfucker, you're the one that's starving, and you have the nerve to play a sorcerer chef. No. In the same sense, and I'll stand on that. I said a white person a white person cannot say what is racist and what's not racist. That's just not that's not your call. Not when you've been the progenitor of it. Not when you've had Jim Crow laws in the South. Not when you started the slave trade. Not when you started voter suppression. Not when you started murder and mutilation and possible genocide of the attempted genocide of the Native American race. Not when you turned around and your Anglo-Saxon and white supremacy groups tried to eliminate ethnic people such as the Jewish people and black people and Indonesian people and even people in South America during apartheid. So you can't sit there and say what's racist and what's not racist. Not when you've been the historical figure of the homegrown terrorists. So again, it amazed me. So like I said, Journalists are just trying to do their jobs to the best of their abilities, but they're stuck with a man who is now subjected. He pretty much has all but not admitted where his allegiances lie. Now, what does that mean in the next couple? What does that mean come January? A very interesting time. But I do believe in all things that what we have learned from this election is just that your vote does matter. People with enough backing can get elected. At the same time, journalists should always stand their ground. And you should always stand your ground in your job despite opposition. And that's the true designing of a professional. But at the same time, like I said at the beginning of my podcast, if you voted for Hillary, if you voted for, like I said in my state, for example, if you vote for Bill Lee and Marsha Blackburn, don't come complaining to me. I voted for the other guys. But we're going to leave that here for this one as far as how the Frack got here. I know it was a lot of stuff that I tried to cover in a very short amount of time. So thank you guys for all watching. Thank you, BJ. Thank you, Vaughn. Thank you, Rick and Derek. And anybody else who's watching this live, like I said, if you're watching this on the playback, feel free to still respond to it. And just as if you're watching it, so that way I can hear all your comments, things of that nature. Because I know Trump supporters, I've already heard from you. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to hear about you. I'm going to hear from you later on tonight. But aside from that, my only show as far as how the Frack got here, which is usually every Wednesday from 9 to 10 p.m. I do also have my other show, Off Limits Podcast, which will be this Saturday from 3 to 5 p.m. And also, Vaughn, who's actually on this podcast as well, has actually, if not already, has actually went live on his podcast. Yeah, I get that reference, VST. And the VST is just a 30-minute podcast where he just goes over various news groups and things of that nature. And he actually has the link somewhere down in the comments pool to where, because it's actually moved to a new home. So if you just scroll down to that, you'll be able to click on that and actually join him, because I believe he's live right now, in which world I'll be going as well after this podcast is over. He also has another show, Rhythm This, where you reminisce over the rhythm, where he actually goes over different albums and actually grades them to a 4-tier system. If you want to know what the 4-tier system is, just listen to Rhythm This whenever that becomes available. And he also has a Random as Fuck with Uncle VZ, which is an early morning show, which he just goes over various things as far as it being an active show, just like mine are, to where you'll be getting that as well. Also, my other friend of ours, Trace, who actually has The Bump Down, which is also a musical podcast, which he goes over what's hot on the charts, what's not on the chart, what's hot, what's not, what's on the charts, and what's happening on the mainstream and on the underground. And he also explains the veil behind the curtain as far as the music and recording industry, and especially if you're just trying to figure out how to get on and know how it all works, how it gets all together. That is a guy I recommend listening to, because he definitely has a wealth of knowledge that he's willing to share. Now, all these shows are available on the I Get That Reference Facebook group. It's a group that's open to all. You simply type in I Get That Reference and just join. The only rule that we have is that you participate, which means that you either liking something, sharing something, opening up a question, responding to somebody. Anything of that nature will be completely and utterly fine. Just participate, use social skills is all we ask. And finally, we do have YouTube pages for each of our podcasts. So if you look up How the Frack We Got Here, if you look up Off Limits Podcast, if you look up I Get That Reference, if you look up The Bump Down, all of those have YouTube pages that are up and active now, to where you can like, share, and subscribe and see every podcast that we've done so far on our separate pages. And with that being said, like I said, the whole idea about how the Frack We Got Here is to stay informed. I believe an informed community can make a hell of a lot better decision than an uninformed one, because an uninformed community gets you nowhere. But that's the whole reason of staying informed. The whole way we can stay informed is to encourage others to go out there, look for their truth, and be able to bring it back to others. And that's how we spark modern debates, and that's how we come ahead, and that's where progressiveness starts. And the only way we can do that is if we stay informed. So, that, guys, will wrap it up for this. I've been Will Buchanan. Thank you guys all for sticking around for this. This has definitely been How the Frack We Got Here podcast. Hope you guys have a good night. Peace.